You both have such a strong community around coffee with the chicken ladies. What fall inspired topics are your listeners most curious about this time of year?
Molting, molting, molting,
And
and more molting.
and more molting.
It's always the molt. Everyone's really nervous about that.
First time chicken keepers sometimes don't understand what it is. They don't understand it. So they think, oh my goodness, my chicken's sick. They have mites or lice. So understanding the natural process of what a chicken goes through is really important because you'll be what we say, you won't be scared, you'll be prepared, and you just need to know what's going on.
Welcome to the Mother Earth News and Friends podcast. At Mother Earth News for 50 years and counting, we've been dedicated to conserving the planet's natural resources while helping you conserve your financial resources. In this podcast, we host conversations with experts in the fields of sustainability, homesteading, natural health, and more to share all about how you can live well wherever you are in a way that values both people and our Mother Earth.
Good day, everyone. I am Kenny Coogan, and joining me on this episode of Mother Earth News and Friends are the delightful and knowledgeable Holly, Callahan-Kasmala, and Chrisie DiCarlo from Coffee with the Chicken Ladies. Coffee with the Chicken Ladies currently is in its fifth year with listeners in over 100 countries, and they spotlight different poultry breeds each week. They also cover general topics, interviews with breeders, veterinarians, authors, and companies that serve the chicken world. As the crisp days of fall roll in, it's time to huddle up and chat about what autumn means for our backyard flocks. From molting mishaps to cozying up the coop, we're covering everything you need to know about your chickens to keep them happy this season. Grab a warm drink or cold one and settle in. This is going to be a clucking good conversation. Welcome to the podcast, Holly and Chrisie.
Thank you. Thank
Hello.
you for having us.
How are you?
I always like to schedule these interviews as early as possible. It just so happens I still have my frozen coffee.
We have hot coffee.
Yeah, I'm on my multiple cups already. It's early. Thank you so much for having us. We're delighted to be here.
We're thrilled to have you, and we're preparing for the fall. What are your top 3 tasks every chicken keeper should tackle in the early fall?
One of my top tasks to do in the fall is to double check everything that's going on that I'm going to need in the winter. And number one are panel heaters. So I want to make sure all my electrical things are working, they're great, ready to go, because when that cold hits, I don't want to be running everywhere looking for something that's going to work. So I want to make sure everything works before I get to any kind of cold weather. For sure. Outlets, heaters, all those things.
Yeah, it's a good time to switch out fans to heaters if you do that.
Exactly.
On my farm, we deep clean the coops. And the reason we do this is because your birds end up in the coop longer in the fall and winter. And so they create tons of feather dust and dander. So it's really nice to have a clean slate going into the cold months.
You want to start off at a good spot.
It's also really good to start over if you're going to do deep litter for the winter. So that's another reason to just strip the coop and just get it going again fresh.
The third thing is I'd like to make sure I have all my supplements and everything ready to go as well that I'm going to need in the winter. All my vitamins and minerals and my electrolytes that I'm going to need when it gets cold. I'm preparing for extreme weather cold, just making sure everything's good to go.
All right, very good. How do you adjust your feeding routines as the winter cools down? And when I ask that question, I'm really thinking about molting season.
Molting, right. So we keep our girls on really good commercial feed, which means in the fall, they can stay on their feed. We add a few things in. We'll start giving them scratch in the evenings. Chrissy can talk a little more about the diet because she has a bigger shift than I do.
I actually do use a food that is made for molting. It's called Feather Fixer by Nutrina Feeds. And it's actually made to help get them through the molting era. It's a food that gives them extra vitamins, minerals, and proteins through those times.
I think the only other thing that I do that's a little different, and both of us do this, we make sure there's a little bit of fat in the chicken's diet. And that might be from occasional suet balls. And the reason for this is that chickens need vitamin A for healthy feather formation. And vitamin A is a fat soluble vitamin. So it doesn't have to be a ton, but a little fat available in their diet is pretty important.
Also, an uptake of protein is really important, and calcium, because keep in mind, while you're not making eggs and you're making feathers, they both take that same calcium component, vitamin D and calcium and phosphorus all together to make really beautiful, healthy, shiny feathers that are full, and they're going to keep them warm in the winter. That's the number one thing. We want those feathers to help protect them.
So molting season can be stressful for both hens and humans. Do you do anything other than adjust the feed?
Yes.
We make sure we're not doing, obviously, there are some routine tasks that have to be done. And if someone needs veterinary care, it has to be done. But we try not to handle our birds very much because molting is so painful. We try to just keep stress in general to a minimum and keep the nutrition up so they have a pretty seamless ride. We don't want to do anything to upset them, to cause more pain, really just keep everything on an even keel.
The other thing that you want to do is while you're not touching them, you want to look at them and watch their behavior every single day. You want to make sure that even though molting is 100% a natural process, that they are handling it well, because sometimes molting can cause a chicken not to feel well, not to want to eat well, and that starts a downward spiral. So by checking them out a little bit more and making sure those behaviors are the same and they're eating and drinking. If not, that's the time to intervene. That's the time to give some supplement food, to change things around, take them out, give them some separate time to eat so that they're not being bullied at the bowl. It really is it's a time when you need to just be watching and observing and making sure they're doing the same things every day.
Isn't it crazy that they lose all their feathers in the fall when it starts getting cool to cold?
It would make more sense, like naturally, if they molted late summer when it was still warm, but I guess this is nature's way of making sure like they don't put on their fur coat until I should say their feathery coat until the last minute before the cold gets here.
We were just talking about this the other day
Mhm.
because we were saying, yeah, we said the same thing. Wouldn't it be great if they molted in the summer? But then here's nature protecting their skin, because a lot of times you're not going to go out and put sunblock on your chicken. You can if you have a really natural one to help protect that really fragile skin under those feathers. But yeah, they try to take it and put it in the best time possible. Sometimes you have that stray chicken and I've had it before, that molts in December, and you're like, couldn't you do this in September? Please, next time, don't do it in December. And those are the times when you definitely have to intervene. If it's a catastrophic molt, it could be what we call soft molt, and it's only some feathers. If it's a catastrophic, you really got to watch at that point.
Also, it's naturally the time that they're slowing down egg production so they can put those resources back into feather growing.
Oh, exactly.
About 10 years to the day, I went to Thailand and I saw wild red jungle fowl
Nice.
in the forest. So they don't really have to care about the cool weather there.
No, not at
They're
all.
Amazing little birds. That must have been super cool.
Can you remind our listeners where you are located?
We're both in Maryland, Northern
Mid-Atlantic.
Maryland. Yeah.
Mid-Atlantic of the United States.
I'm your neighbor in North Carolina.
Hi, neighbor.
Hi.
Do you adjust your chicken care routines based on your climate? And
Oh, yeah.
100%.
Absolutely. Yeah.
When we
yeah.
talk every week during our breed spotlight, this is one of the things that we do bring up because chickens, a lot of times, they're named for their geographical area they're from. And when they're in a certain area, those chickens they adapt to those areas long ago in the weather patterns. So sometimes you do want to look, were they from a warm and humid spot? Were they from a colder spot? Because they will already be predisposed to be better in those areas. So if you're in Florida, your chicken keeping is going to be different than you're in Montana. Those
Right.
two areas, you're going to have to do different things to keep your flock very happy.
Yeah. We deal with high moisture and humidity here. So our summer routine probably looks a little extreme to people because we're fans everywhere to keep that humid air moving. Cochins aren't made to be in hot and humid weather. So we do what we have to do to keep them safe and comfortable.
so let's talk about coop care. What should we be doing now to prepare for the real cold winters? Keeping in mind, I'm from Buffalo, New York.
Wow.
And before social media, my father was snow plowing the path in the snow
Oh, yeah.
for all the chickens and ducks to march by the 2 foot long path with snowbanks on the up.
On either side.
Yeah, exactly. So coop prep is really important. That should really be in our number 3 for getting out there. You want to make sure that you don't have drafts, that everything is sealed up to the point where you have ventilation, but not a draft, because there's a difference between the two. And you want to make sure that your electricity is going to go, or if not, you have another plan, another place to bring them, and that everything, I'd say number 1 is drafts to me, number 1.
And I'll follow that with leaks. You do not want
Yeah.
leaks. You don't want moisture getting in there and causing problems. Here on my farm, we do perimeter checks, and that means we're checking the perimeters on the sheep fields, we're checking the perimeters on all the chicken runs, the geese, the ducks, to make sure there are no gaps where predators can get in.
Exactly.
Because naturally in cold weather, you're not spending as much time outside. You don't have your eyes on everything as much. So really making sure there are no gaps in your fencing and your runs. The other thing we do here, because we use very heavy deer netting for the tops of our poultry yards. So we go around and clear all the debris off the top.
Oh,
Leaves
yeah.
falling, sticks, things, because when you start getting ice and snow, that weighs things down and it does very bad things to your enclosure walls. And I say that from bitter experience.
Yeah, I like what you said, Holly Ann, about walking the perimeter and checking to make sure that during the summer someone hasn't dug a hole that's not supposed to be there, making sure everything is set. It's like when you change your clocks, you check your smoke alarms. Then you want to add in also check your perimeter. I check my smoke alarms. Do you?
Yeah, that's what the husband does.
He does that, yeah. But definitely check all those things, because in the winter, let's face it, you're not going to be out there as much as you are when the weather is nice. So you want to make sure they're secure.
Are there any fall specific enrichment activities or treats you like to offer your chickens? All I can think of is pumpkins.
And peas, pumpkins and peas, because peas are high in protein. So back to molting, yeah.
I think this is just an easy thing. And I feel like if you have a bird who will eat a bunch of stuff and get her crop stuffed, you might want to avoid this. Otherwise, we clean all those leaves off the tops of the coops and throw them in the yard. They love to dig through them. Sometimes there's some bugs in there. They just love the scratching. So low cost, easy, makes them happy.
And know your flock. Holly said, if you have a garbage eater, that's what I call one in my chickens in my run. If they're going to eat that stuff, try to stay away from it. But they love it. They
do. They love
get in and they love to scratch, those types of things. And switching over the treats and giving them a different variety in the different seasons. We talk about this all the time, different season, different treat for a different benefit. So this is one of the things that you're going to change over.
So with shortened daylight, that's going to affect their laying. They might probably all the way stop because of the molting. One way to keep them laying or increase the laying is doing supplemental lighting. What's your take on that? Should we be giving our chickens a rest or should we be pushing them through?
If you've listened to us at all, you will know that we're going to say we do not use supplemental lighting. We try to keep things as natural as possible. We do spoil our birds. Decreased daylight means that the pituitary gland is no longer getting the hormones to stimulate laying, which means your chicken stops ovulating. And hens are female bodies doing what female bodies do. And so we really don't like forcing them to ovulate when it's their time off. They deserve that rest, right?
Yeah, we like to think they're like, I'm on vacation, save your eggs and do different things throughout the year to prepare for this time because they deserve that break. They deserve a vacation. If you want your hens to lay longer in life, let's look at this. Hens are given, just like women of human, the number of eggs they're going to lay within their lifetime. So if you supplement that light in the winter, you're going to be pushing through quicker. Your hen's going to lay less. It's going to lay for less time. So if you give her the break, you're going to have a more consistent flow of eggs through the proper times of the year. I always say they're out there with their picket signs saying no eggs, winter,
Man, we
no
want
eggs.
to rest. How
We
would you
wanna
like to push
rest.
out an egg 3 or 4 times a week? We need a rest. Yes. Yeah.
We are going to take a quick break in our show to hear a word from our sponsor. And when we return, we're going to be continuing to talk about your flock's health. We are back with Holly Callahan-Kasmala and Chrissie DiCarlo from Coffee with the Chicken Ladies. And I only have a quarter of my cup left.
Oh,
Oh, you might need to refill. Do you
know.
need a second to go in and get another cup of coffee because we're on our 5th. We ran and got like 4 more cups during the coffee break.
no,
If I
it's too
have
early.
more than 2 cups of coffee, my heart will beat so fast it will come out of my chest.
I think we've been drinking so much coffee for so long that we're not really affected by caffeine anymore. And I'm serious when I say that. I could drink coffee at midnight and sleep for 8 hours.
Oh yeah, when we travel together, we're drinking coffee from morning to night, and when we work together, we always have a cup of coffee. And
But
it
water
doesn't.
too.
Yeah, water sometimes with it, but
Anyway.
caffeine is. You got to be able to keep going, man. You got to be able to keep going.
If I have coffee after 11 a.m., I will be up all night.
Oh no.
Oh man,
So
you need
we're
to hang
talking-
out with us for a little while. We'll get you
Yes.
up to speed.
All right, so we're going to be talking about keeping your flocks healthy. What are some common mistakes maybe you see in like first-time chicken keepers that are specific to the fall and fall chicken care?
Not letting them have a little extra bit of fat that they really need to get those feathers going, I think, or not if they're on a ration that doesn't support the feather growth. That's probably the biggest thing. Your chickens need a lot of help because we've bred them to this. It's not like you're dealing with a jungle fowl. We've bred them to these extremes. So they need this help, and the nutrition is the number one priority.
I also think not giving them that natural break, what we were just talking about, is also a mistake because all over social media, there are things that tell you, like the coop, you want to get eggs. Honestly, the natural way is so much better. Giving their bodies a time to break because they're growing feathers. You don't want them to go through that, go right back into laying eggs without a break in their body, a time to recharge. So I think also we see that a lot using the lights.
You mentioned before the break watching your birds, but how do you monitor your flock's health when the temperatures fluctuate? What are some visual things that you're looking out for?
So you're going to be looking for if they're huddling together, if they're cold, they're all going to be together and they're going to be huddled. You're looking for if your water is starting to freeze outside. That's also an indicator.
I keep a close eye on crops to, again, make sure people are eating, monitor the food bowls. Combs are still going to be a really good indicator of health. The combs will shrink a little naturally in the cold, but during the fall, if you haven't had a lot of freezing temperatures, they should still be nice and plump and red. And a pale comb on a molting chicken is definitely cause to give her a good exam gently and make sure everything's working okay.
On that note, you can also watch their stool to make sure that is normal and they're not having issues with parasites, diarrhea, or any other problems. Again, watching them is so important so you know their daily habits and when they change, because chickens don't tell you when you're sick or when they are sick. You have to go out and you have to see the signs.
You mentioned watching the water and making sure that it doesn't freeze, but I remember in Buffalo that the wood shavings would freeze, which is
Oh, yeah.
definitely a major concern.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's a little too cold for me.
I
Oh,
think in
geez.
Buffalo, everything freezes. I don't
Right.
think there's a single thing that doesn't freeze in Buffalo. So, yeah, just watching outside. If you are uncomfortable, I think the golden rule is if you're real uncomfortable, they're feeling the same things that we are. And just know, watching the water, watching those shavings, everything, and see if you need to intervene at that point. Knowing when to intervene is important.
So we don't want to skip too far ahead into the winter. We're talking about the autumn.
Right.
Can each of you share a favorite fall memory from your flocks that still make you smile over your innumerable cups of coffee?
They make me smile every day. I have a
Yeah.
daily memory of them. I love watching them scratch and dust bathe in leaves and the changing of the temperatures. Sometimes the crab apples fall off my trees and they're like running around trying to take bites of them. The fall is a magical time. And so just watching them every day it gives me memories that last a lifetime.
Yeah, I don't think I have any specific memories. I like Chrissy, I love the fall. It's probably my favorite season. I guess I keep coming back to when I got married. My husband and I got married in the fall, and I remember running out to feed the chickens and thinking, we are having the most glorious October weather ever. And then running off to my sister's farm to get the wedding together. But just that sunny days, cool mornings, they're less stressed because it's not hot. It's just wonderful.
You both have such a strong community around coffee with the chicken ladies. What fall inspired topics are your listeners most curious about this time of year?
Molting, 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 and more molting.
And more molting.
It's always the molt. Everyone's really nervous about that.
First-time chicken keepers sometimes don't understand what it is. They don't understand it. So they think, oh my goodness, my chicken's sick. They have mites or lice. So understanding the natural process of what a chicken goes through is really important because you'll be what we say, you won't be scared, you'll be prepared, and you just need to know what's going on.
There's a lot of confusion. We saw a lot of this during the COVID chicken boom and then again with the egg prices chicken boom, but people get very confused because their birds don't molt the first year. No, because they're constantly replacing feathers as they grow. So a lot of people, when their birds hit that second year lull and they're not laying and they're molting, they're really confused. I feel, like Chrissy said, prepared. So just know that the first year your birds are not going to drop all their feathers because they're continually replacing. But that second year, it's usually not good. Second year is almost always a catastrophic molt for a 2-year-old bird.
And it goes along with the laying, the stopping of the laying.
Right.
People are confused. Why is my chick? It's Thanksgiving. Why am I not getting eggs? This is the natural time that they take that break. So that's why we talk about different ways to preserve the eggs when you have 600 of them instead of 6. It's definitely learning the seasons. Seasons to chickens are very important. They do different things in different seasons, different everything. So taking it season by season is a very good idea to just learn how that goes.
Yeah, it can definitely be traumatic opening up the coop and there's just thousands of feathers.
Feathers
You know what?
everywhere.
You could learn how to make a pillow. That would be great. Make a chicken feather pillow.
That's a
Holly
good
Ann,
fall.
will you make me one?
Oh, okay. I take that back. I will make you a chicken feather pillow if you pick all the feathers up, but they have to be down feathers, Chris. They can't be rigid feathers.
I know. I'll be picking them up.
You're going to poke your eye out with that.
Are you going to knit me a pillow?
No, I'll sew it for you. You should have told me you wanted this when the geese were molting because I could have gotten you some goose down pillows.
Exactly.
This all sounds like great fall activities for our listeners.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Pillow making, pick up a hobby.
You're going to be spending less time in the garden, so you could be making pillows.
Exactly.
It's true, yeah.
Earlier, you mentioned cochins, which I absolutely adore. And what breeds have you found to handle the cooler months better or worse than others? And of course, this could be a full episode on its own when we can go through all 600 breeds.
Right? Absolutely. So the bigger, the fluffier, the better. If it's a big, huggable, lovable chicken, it's probably going to do fine in cold weather.
Now,
Cochins, Brahmas, Langshans.
if you have bantams, leghorns, say Houdans, Polish, think of small and bougie. They're going to need silkies. They're going to need some supplemental heat. They're going to need some help. Anybody with a big comb, big wattles, they don't take the cold as well. They're going to need some heat.
I feel
So-
like it's really hard to give a lot of this advice because people's setups are so different. So what happens with 3 silkies in a big wooden coop is going to be different than 20 leghorns in a same wooden coop where they fill it and their body heat keeps them going. So it's always tough to give this advice. We can say in general, the bigger the body, the more feather coverage, the smaller the combs and wattles, the better they do in cold weather.
Holly Ann and I, best friends for 42 years, we have totally different setups sometimes. So everybody has to handle things differently with the same good end result. So you have to figure out how that works for you. And like we're saying, if they have less down feathers, if they don't have that fluff, that means they don't have enough to really keep them warmer. And generally smaller body mass, they're not going to stay warmer. So
comparing Orpington booty with Leghorn booty, there's clearly not a lot of warm stuff happening on those little Leghorns.
they could both shake it though. They're
They
like,
can,
yeah.
yes.
In Florida, I had a flock of naked neck chickens,
Oh,
which enjoyed the hot and humid conditions of Florida.
They're
I'm
amazing
sure.
birds. They're
They're-
just we neither one of us have them, but we love them. They're amazing birds.
they're supposed to be so intelligent, and that most of them are, but they're really supposed to be smart ones.
And they were also very domesticated. They would just stretch their neck out, lay on your arm, and
Oh,
you would touch that bare skin.
Oh, yeah.
Aw, they sound really sweet.
They're like, I need some sunblock.
I had black ones and I had a yellow brown one, and the yellow brown one, its skin did turn bright red in the
Mhm.
summertime from the
Oh,
sun.
yeah. Oh yeah.
I guess they
So-
can probably handle the heat well because they can all that naked skin helps them give the heat off. Yeah.
Yeah, the naked skin, and then also where their feathers are, it's 50% less insulated than a typical chicken. So they really are lacking the feathers.
So
Okay.
they're in that bougie category in the winter that they're gonna need some help. They're gonna need the supplemented heaters, the insulated coops, all those different things.
All right, so we want to emphasize the importance of preparing your coops and your birds for the fall. Do you have a story that might highlight how important it is that fall prep is
This
essential?
is getting into winter, but this is probably 10, 15 years ago. I'd always had cochin roosters who were very cold hardy. And I ended up with a Jersey giant rooster who was mammoth. His name was Ricardo Montalban, and he had
Not the actor.
the biggest comb and wattles I'd ever seen. And I read online, you don't need heat as long as your coop is dry. We had a snap cold spell in November where the temperatures went down to 10 degrees Fahrenheit. His comb froze and all the points came off. And from that day forward, I said, starting with our first frost, my coops are going to be equipped for dealing with this cold. Because what I realized is that it doesn't matter what you do. If the temperatures are low enough, you're going to have flesh freezing. So again, always be prepared. I felt terrible about that. He was in so much pain. It was horrible.
Always be prepared, not scared. That is the key to everything. Having everything you need, because you can pile it on to go out to take care of them, but they cannot. You can't put things on them to keep them warmer. They have a body system that keeps them warmer. But just knowing that you have the thing set up. So Holly has her heaters in her coops. I have mine in pop-ups in my garage. My memories of all of this is running out there with a chicken stroller when the cold comes in and telling my two daughters, grab them and put them in the chicken stroller. And then we're running back with chicken strollers to get them where the heat is. And that is like a cold time memory that I never lose. It's
Just be cognizant about the needs of your individual birds. I have leghorns in a coop that's stuffed to the gills with birds, and they're fine. They don't need any heat in there. But I have another coop that has elderly hens, and they do get a little bit of heat when it gets below 20 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's just knowing your birds and trying to anticipate what their needs are going to be as cold weather rolls in.
every situation's different. And Holly, as a historian, you've looked back in the past, and we do know that in days of the colonial times, people who really felt that their chickens were important to their homestead did bring them in and put them in the kitchen in front of the fire to help warm them. With modern technology and with having the fact that you don't have to use a heat lamp, and those are major fire risks, you can use a safe panel heater. It does give you a little bit more tools.
You can make your life a lot easier. And if you're worried about freezing with a bird, you can get little thermostat cubes that you plug in, and you can plug your panel heater, whatever you're using, into that and set it to, say,
32, 33.
Or most of ours are set to 20 degrees. So if it drops below 20, then we want some frostbite protection. But there's almost everything you can find on the market right now. You were talking about keeping an eye on your bird. You can get smart systems and cameras in your coops to watch what's going on.
Somebody's, what are you doing? I'm watching my chicken. Well, my phone.
Chicken TV. It's chicken TV.
Chicken TV. I got the chicken TV channel on. It could be at dinner and see what's going on.
It's addictive because we have it in the sheep shed too. And I know Chrissie and I will be out of town, and I'm sitting there in the hotel room watching what the sheep are doing. It is addictive just to watch.
Chrissie, you mentioned moving the birds from a freezing location to a warmer kitchen. Are we concerned about big temperature fluctuations?
Here's the thing, that big temperature fluctuations is more important in the summer. So if a bird has trouble in the summer, so you bring them into the AC, going back out to the heat is more of a stress on their body. Now, I bring them into a non-heated garage with panel heaters. So if you're bringing them in to, say, 68 degrees, you may want to take a little bit more precaution in putting them back outside, but generally they don't have a problem with hot to cold. It's more of a problem with, well, let me say that again. They don't have a problem with hot to cold, but they do have a problem with cold to hot.
We've done tons of research on this. I've looked up studies and studies going back to mid 20th century. And we came away with a couple things. The first is that for a chicken that's not, it's surprisingly easy for them to get hypothermia. The other thing we came back with was that every single study found that, what Chrissie's saying, if you take a bird that's been in 50 degrees and you take them out to 90, there's going to be serious oxidative stress that can lead to a quick death in a lot of cases.
So that's from cold to hot.
If they're coming out of a coop that has been reasonably heated. So if you're using your coop heaters correctly, the temperatures in your coop should be in the 30s at the highest. A bird coming out of the 30s into the 20s is fine. There's a lot of fear that if you have a heat source in your coop and the power goes out, they're going to die. I can tell you from years of experience that this doesn't happen either.
And if you're worried, you can get a solar pack, which would be great.
But one of the reasons, you can also do things like, if you have a small coop, you can wrap up hot water bottles and put them in there in like plastic insulated coops like the igloo. Okay, something like that works very well. But so anyway, if the power goes out, your temperature in your coop does not instantly plummet. You've got a gradual cooling off period. Your chickens are fine. In fact, they appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Coffee with the Chicken Ladies. All this content was great, and I know that our listeners are going to be prepared and not scared this fall season.
Great.
That's what we love. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you, Kenny.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of Mother Earth News and Friends. To listen to more podcasts and get connected on our social media, visit www.motherearthnews.com/podcast. You can also email us at podcast@ogdenpubs.com with any questions or suggestions. Our podcast production team includes Kenny Coogan, Alyssa Warner, and myself, Josh Wilder. Music for this episode is the song Hustle by Kevin MacLeod. The Mother Earth News and Friends podcast is a production of Ogden Publications.